add and subtract mixed numbers here. Remember, a mixed number means that you have a whole number and a fraction attached, kind of like 2.5. So here we have one that's 2 3/4 plus 3 3/10. Notice that we write it so the whole numbers have their own column and the fractions have their own column. Now the whole numbers, we're going to save that to the very end. So we're going to ignore that 2 plus 3 right now. So we're going to focus more on the column of fractions, so 3/4 plus 3/10. Now, like we've been working with fractions, you have to have common denominators before you can add these fractions. So I have a 4 and I have a 10. So if I count by the biggest one, so tens, 10, 20, 30, 40, and then what I do is with my smaller one, which in this case is 4, I look at which ones of these can 4 go into, and I want the smallest one. So it can go into 40, and it can go into 20. So 20 is the smallest, so that will be our common denominator. So we'll make them into 20ths. Or you can just ask yourself, what is the smallest number that both 4 and 10 can divide into evenly? And it would be 20. Alright, so now we make our equivalent fractions. 4 times 5 equals 20. Rule is, whatever I do to the bottom, I got to do to the top. 3 times 5 is 15. And then on the bottom, it looks like I did 10 times 2 is 20. I do the same to the top. 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, so now we add these fractions now that they have common denominators, and I end up getting 21/20. Now that is an improper fraction, and yesterday we learned how to fix these. Remember that a fraction bar actually means divide. So we're going to take 21 and we're going to divide it by 20 because we can't leave our answers as improper fractions. 20 goes into 21 once, and looks like we have 1 left over. So that means in my fraction column here, I ended up getting 1 and 1/20. Now, after I've finished my fraction column, now I look at my whole number column. So I have a 2 plus a 3 is 5. So if I have 5 here and 1 and 1/20 here, all I do is I combine them together. So if I have 5 wholes and I add 1 whole and 1/20, I end up getting 6 wholes and 1/20. That's my answer to 2 3/4 plus 3 3/10. Let's look at subtraction. 9 5/6 minus 2 1/3. So once again, we need equivalent fractions. We're going to ignore the whole numbers first, so we're going to ignore 9 minus 2. 6 and 3, so the 6 and 3 can divide evenly into 6's. And make our equivalent fractions. Times 1, that's 5/6. And times 2, and times 2, that's 2/6. So now I have common denominators and I can subtract. 5/6 minus 2/6 is 3/6. Now this one is not improper, so I don't have to divide it, the little numbers on the top. But I do have to reduce this because there is something that can divide evenly into both 3 and 6, and that is 3. So if I divide the top and bottom by 3, which is called reducing or simplifying our fraction, I get 1/2. That's my fraction column. Now we can't forget about our whole numbers over here. So I have an easy subtraction problem, 9 minus 2, that's 7. And then I add on my fraction column, 1/2. So 9 5/6 minus 2 1/3 equals 7 1/2. That's how you add and subtract mixed numbers. And don't forget to reduce and fix your improper fractions.